Little Ham says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
Go.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to the E-Tims podcast. E for Group E, as this is the evening of the Champions League draw. Celtic were drawn in Group E, and I am glad to say tonight, at the moment, I am joined by two of our regular panellists, Hector Bandido in the suburbs. Good evening, Hector.
Good evening, everyone.
And the man across the water, Monty C. Burns. Good evening, Monty.
Evening, Desi. Evening, lads.
Thanks for joining, gents. We are hoping that Ralph Malf, as always, you've heard this a million times, folks. We're hoping that Ralph Malf can join us. He has been busy lately, so see if you hear the sound of an indicator, that means Ralph has come online. So see what happens there. Hopefully he can join us, of course. And of course, thank you very much once again for joining us by listening. Please like and subscribe where you can. As we said, we are here to discuss Celtic being drawn in Group E of the Champions League. But we'll get to that in a second because we do have a special announcement tonight. Hector Bandido, I believe you have special news and congratulations coming your way for a new member of the Celtic family.
Yes, thank you, Desi. And obviously I was hoping that Brendan would have him included in the squad for this weekend's fixture. But my oldest kid, he's in the States, and him and his wife, she gave birth just a few days ago. Baby boy, 5 weeks early, so you can imagine his own stresses with that. But they're home now, all great. The wee man has his first Celtic kit already with his own name in the back of it and number. So yes, we're all over the moon. So thanks for that. Delighted to
Congratulations. So welcome, folks, to the official Celtic Grandad podcast. We are no longer a Celtic Daz podcast. We are officially a Celtic Grandad podcast. So that's us got a new title. So again, so welcome. Well, let's put our ear trumpets in and welcome. So there we go. So currently, I'm just sitting watching here. Aberdeen are currently getting beat 1-0. Hopefully, they can turn it around to be another Scottish team in Europe this season after Rangers' sad defeat last night against Eindhoven. But we are principally here to talk about today's Champions League draw. Hector, Feyenoord, Atletico Madrid, and Lazio. Were you happy with that draw today?
I think you looked at all there was always one or two that were. When I seen Real Madrid and Napoli come out first, I thought, oh fuck. and then the other one that obviously that caught my eye was PSG and Dortmund, especially once Milan became the third team in there, and we're all probably thinking the same thing. But when you weighed everything up, I actually think we've got a group that seems reasonable. Atletico Madrid will obviously be the strong favourites. They've had a great start to the season in Spain, and a lot of folk are tipping them to win the Spanish league this season. That's how strong they look. But if you look at Lazio, every team changes. So we beat them a few years ago, so they'll have changed a lot. But they've lost some players as well this summer. The interesting one's Feyenoord. They're the pot one seed, and people might say, well, of the pot one seeds, possibly on paper, don't look as strong as the others. But I would caution that a wee bit. They won the Dutch league last year, beating a good Ajax and good PSV teams last year. The manager, and this is the kind of Celtic Ange link, Spurs wanted their manager to be their new manager, and he knocked them back, and they've kept pretty much all their best players from last season. So on paper it looks good. And also the romantic part of it, isn't it? Celtic and Feyenoord haven't played a European game since 1970 European Cup final. So that in itself is massive, and also the Wim Jansen relationship there. So I think there's a lot in there. And I think depending how the next couple of days go with the transfer window and hopefully Brendan and the players getting their game in order, there's maybe a wee bit of opportunity there to see European football beyond Christmas, dare I say, if we play well.
Okay. As always, positivity. Yeah, Arne Slot is the Feyenoord manager. He's only 44, by the way, quite interesting. Monty, you are our business guru. Hector's our tactician. You are our business guru. Someone asked, because we were joking the other day on the Twitter, with regards, given the fact that we need to make these last-minute signings, will Michael Nicholson be so busy that Peter Lawwell will have to represent the club, because we know he is quite camera shy. And someone asked when Celtic were drawn out, they go to the Celtic contingent, and we didn't see Peter Lawwell on the TV, or at least I didn't. And somebody asked on Twitter, where's Peter Lawwell? To which I suggested he's away asking for a wee draw because he's wanting a more glamorous fixture to increase the prices. Do you think Celtic? Do you think from a business model and how much is the package going to go for? Is it an attractive selling point?
I think there's a captive audience there, Desi, that it doesn't matter if we drew the three least glamorous, or a terrible draw. It's a captive audience. Like, who's going to say no? The answer is probably no one. It'll be a sellout. The Champions League nights are special, and everyone knows that. I think they've probably looked at it very favourably because, as Hector just said, there's it's not even a long shot. There's a decent shot of getting football in Europe after Christmas, which is really our level and our goal now. Even watching the coverage last night of Eindhoven's game and listening to they're talking it down a lot, almost trying to soothe the baying hordes across the city, that the Europa League is realistically where you can hope to do things. So if you're in the Champions League, realistically, are you going to win it? It was repeated by one of the commentators, might have been McCoy, never win it. So we accept that at this point in time. Things can change. So therefore, our goal has to be, can we finish third? And I look at Feyenoord as a possibility, Lazio as a possibility, and Atletico, that's 2 free hits. If you took anything out of those 2 games against Atletico, I think we'd be doing well. But from a business perspective, it's the Champions League, it's the glamour. And sure, didn't we win a watch last night as well? Was it an extra 12 million or something like that? Just because
I think we're 13 million clear.
13 million clear
in the UEFA compensation. But if Aberdeen, and I also like the fact somebody put up tonight, that if Aberdeen go through, the Rangers money then goes down again.
It's them because they lose.
So that's even more of a reason for wanting Aberdeen to get through tonight. And I wish them well, because Aberdeen winning the Cup years ago is still one of my best football memories as a kid. So hopefully Aberdeen can get through. But again, that also means now with Eindhoven, Gubbin, Rangers have to do the old Thursday night, Sunday night playing schedule. So again, we've got a chance of maybe just putting some pressure on a Saturday. Hopefully we can rise to that. And talking about rising to pressure, right? So we've had quite a heated week on the E-Tim's WhatsApp.
You've had quite a heated week on the E-Tim's WhatsApp. The rest is all calm.
Let's just say there's some bedwetters out there and there's some happy clappers out there.
There's one bedwetter out there, let's just say.
Whereby there was one person who, let's just remember, there was only one person on this call who told you that Ange Postecoglou would not be here this season a year ago, and everyone else said he was mad. I'm not saying that was the same guy, but it was, i.e. me. And basically all I said was, this board are pathetic. They've no signed one first team player. To which people, i.e. yourselves, started offering up, and I'm not being vindictive here, but basically pointing out reasons for difficulties in the market, Saudi, injuries, various things, right? We're looking forward, we're not looking back. But so we are where we are. So I've made a wee list, Hector. Nathaniel Phillips, Liam Gallagher's daughter's boyfriend, which is a nice touch. Nathaniel Phillips and Luis Palma have joined. They're hoping Paulo Bernardo can sign by tomorrow, which could be Jota Mark II by all the sounds of it, but in the middle of the park. We've also got Naroki, Lagerbielke, Home, Kwon in the middle, And then Yang along with Palmer. Tillio was injured for a while. But do you think the board, I don't want to say the board have done enough, but do you think, obviously, we're a lot better place than we were 3 days ago, but do you think there may also still be room for improvement? There's talk of Matt O'Reilly, an offer from Matt O'Reilly. Haksabanovic is out the door.
Yeah.
So again,
So Desi, you said...
Hold on a minute. This for the listeners at home. I'm watching you. Are you watching Aberdeen with that guy getting up there and landing on his head there?
Beauty, wasn't it? It was beauty,
Right,
wasn't
so
it?
the state of the squad.
But you're set the scene fairly well. But the one thing I would just say that there's many aspects to it, right? I don't think it's just good, bad, black, white. I think you've got to look at everything in terms of purchases this summer who are ready for the first team or not, and future planning, scouting the planet, trying to get some good quality young players in from different markets, something that we've complained about for years the club were shit at. But there's also a criticism. So where I'm trying to come from, I think there's many things to weigh up here. So number one, the players that's been brought in. The players that have been brought in so far primarily have been probably good players from their own area, i.e. under 21, under 23 player of the year in South Korea. Yeah. Okay. Norwegian young player who's been highly rated. A lot of good stuff. Tillio for the Australian market. So we've been out to different places, and I think we've probably on paper got guys who over time, 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, potentially might have one or two good players there. And by the way, we're not expecting every player to be successful. But if we can get a 50% hit rate or something, I think that would be good. So that's future planning. That's for the future. And I think so far, I would criticise any of that. I think it's a massive tick in the box for that. Right? All for it. Where I would be critical, Celtic, and we're now here, a day before the window shuts, is we clearly need some first team ready players. And Rodgers has actually said this in a more subdued manner, it has to be said this time round, many, many times. We need a couple of guys, 26, 27-year-old in the first team. We've been slower than I'd have liked to have seen. And I'm not saying having every single, say there's 5, having 5 first team players in by the end of July. I'm not suggesting that. But we were slow. Yeah, we got Narocki come in. So remember, think back to last year. Jens came in and Big Hans didn't want to keep him after January, right? So we had Starfelt, we had Carter Vickers and Jens, 3 of them fighting for 2 places. Jens wasn't kept on, yeah. So he was moved out. So Narocki came in for the Polish market. Rodgers knew him because Leicester had played Legia, I think, the season before. Knew of him, fair enough. But then Starfelt, obviously, personal reasons. His partner, we all know, was centre from the Celtic women's teams, went to Lisbon. He's wanted to then move. And I think we've reacted really quickly, probably fortunate in many ways, because Starfelt's agent's also the agent of the new Swedish centre-back that's came in. So I think from a centre-half perspective, no complaints for me. I think we got Narocki in and we acted really quickly to Starfelt going. So we had 3 guys fighting for 2. With the Japanese boy and Welsh are kind of bit part players. I think we're all agreed on that. But the other players, there's not one of them you would say right now is a guaranteed first team ready player. And that's my criticism. I would like to have seen, come on, give the fans a lift. 1 or 2 for the start of the season. Get them in. You know, give us a bit of oomph about, you know, we're here, we've got a lot of money in the bank with the Champions League qualification already. We're in a really strong position. We've won the treble last year. Come on, give us something. And that's my frustration. But at this point, it's late in the day, and it always seems to be late in the day with Celtic when it comes to pushing the boat out slightly. So what I'm trying to say is there's many things to take in there. Not all good, not all bad. There's a balance, I think, to be had.
I'll come back to you because we were talking about something interesting before we came on, which is kind of related to that. But Monty, first of all, come to you. So again, like we were having back and forth, etc., etc. So my big argument was we've no improved any first team position, as in we need like we talked about many times. For example, we could really do with a big athletic left back. Let's go and get a big athletic left back. That, for example, right? That idea. And then you also noted Rodgers has been in early, June the 6th or whatever, Postecoglou left, and that was all kind of wrapped up soon afterwards. So the question is, Monty, the board, have they sat in their hands, you think, or have they had their hands tied behind their back due to market forces? A combination of all of those, or should, like, for example, I know Hector was very impressed with Nat Phillips, getting Nat Phillips in on loan, but should that not have been the sort of signing we should have been getting in June? So the guys, like that way, he's an obvious step up from your Scales and from your Welsh. So rather than looking to replace Welsh, even though I know he's Scottish in the Champions League squad, that helps. But like actually lifting the levels of the squad and your first team options. This is what annoys me about the whole signing fiasco this summer. I don't know why we never signed these players back then. What do you think, Monty?
I think there's a couple of things, and just to pick up on one of Hector's points because it'll kind of segue in. When Ange was here, who did we sign? And this is subjective, but who did we sign that you thought that really lit the fans up in close season? Nobody. I mean, let's be honest. We had Jota for a year, and then we convinced him to stay. Most people knew nothing about him. Carter Vickers, well rated, but again, nobody knew nothing about him. And the markets that we went to that had huge success with Maeda, Kyogo, Matt O'Reilly. Who'd heard of Matt O'Reilly? So my point is, to bring it into that, we have followed this model this is the third year now. It won us 5 out of 6 domestic trophies and had Champions League qualification one of those years. It turned us over a £25 million transfer fee in 18 months. It has some puzzling pieces to it as well, to Hector's point. Like Iwata was the player of the year in Japan. He's an absolute technician. He looks like the perfect mould of a Brendan Rodgers midfielder, but he's probably 4 inches too short. So we have this sweeping change happening now in terms of personnel and culture. I checked there, Desi, just as we were bringing up the point. Rodgers joined on the 19th of June. So let's give him 2 weeks to get himself under the table and understand and meet the folks and meet the team and all that. And then the players come back the first week in July, and then the internationals come back 2 weeks later. So in real terms, he's in the door 10 weeks. They would always talk in business terms. You got a 90-day plan. You spend that initial sort of 30 days, 60 days in evaluation, then the last 30 days in execution. Normally, a change needs a burning platform. We have one now, but we're not executing. We're not changing direction just because we have a few injuries. So I think I would love a marquee signing, but we haven't done a marquee signing in years. We really haven't. I'd love a couple of really seasoned players, but then we thought Starfelt was old at 26 when he joined, and we've sold him at 28. So Phillips fits that mold. Mm-hmm. I'm just not sure where the criticism of them comes from. I understand Rodgers' frustration because at the end of the day, Rodgers is going to be measured by results. And the St. Johnstone game, which I'm fucking delighted to say I didn't get to watch, by all accounts appears to have been turgid. It was the last 3 weeks of Brenton's previous reign. Side to side, slow and going nowhere. So this impetus, this new blood, if we get that Portuguese young fella, you look at Yang, I would disagree with Hector. I think Yang is first team ready. I really do. But again, in the profile that Rodgers has, he's tall, he's athletic, he's fast, he works, and he's got, he can beat a man. Which then makes the Honduran signing a little bit more puzzling if they play the same position. So we're overloading the wingers again, which is probably pissing Brenton off massively. But the long and short of it, I think we followed the business model correctly. I think it served us really, really well for the last 3 years. But Hector's right. You want a big name just to give you the boost. But then again, we haven't had one.
I'm not saying no. Just to be clear,
our big name.
When I say big name, I don't mean, for example, like a Chris Sutton all those years ago for $6 million, which we couldn't afford now, or a Craig Bellamy. I didn't mean that. What I meant is, for example, I don't care if they're 21 or 25, if they're an established first team solid player. So there was guys mentioned from the Swiss League, remember back in the summer, who a couple of midfielders, Swiss international, and you're going, they tick a lot of boxes.
Fabian Ryder.
8 million, 10 million pounds. That's a statement. That's a nice statement. You go, right, here we go. That's what I mean by give us something. Give us something.
Yeah. And
Exactly.
there's nothing stopping us there other than the model. And that's what I mean about the pivot away from that. Someone brought up last night, or I seen it somewhere that, or maybe it was Phil's blog, that guy Noah Lang, which was doing a great rounds in a Twitter meme that I sent on, along with Rangers in the Champions League, where Noah Lang, he was £15 million. So we're going to be going up against the Dutch team, and the Dutch league now spends 10, 15, 20 million on players. Some of them very rapidly realise that Boda doesn't get their money back, like Ajax and Bassi. There is no real reason why we can't spend that money, but to what end? What's it going to get you above and beyond spending the £6 million? And I think that when you objectively boil it down, that's your big thing. What is it getting you above and beyond what you currently have anyway?
Right. So again, one example I thought of this, and you may hear noises, folks. That's Ralph trying to join us, hopefully. But Hector,
I'm just going to find someone to park up.
Thanks, Ralph, for joining us. Let us know when you've got your indicators off. Hector, one example I was thinking of was like a Paul Lambert style signing. A guy with excellent pedigree. I know, like, he won the Champions League. That may be. Ralph, put some oil in your. And we can't. If we mute him, then we can't get him back, because that's what buggers up his phone. Okay. Hector's disputed him. Chances are we'll not hear Ralph again.
I've not muted him, no.
Like a Paul Lambert style.
I've muted him.
Sorry. Like a Paul Lambert style. But that was very interesting what you said there, Monty. I've just looked back. 21-22 season was the last time, unless you're a football manager style or one of these kind of guys that claims to know world soccer, that was the last time we bought a known player, I would say. And it was James McCarthy and Joe Hart. Two guys at the very end of their careers, let's be honest. Other than that, it's been like your Kyogo's obviously class, but nobody knew who they were. Moving on to 2022, we moved on and we're like, maybe we get a Jota and a Carter Vickers, but then you're also looking like a Bernaby. Alistair Johnson we only knew because of the World Cup. I mean, like that idea. And then like your O's and your even Haksabanovic, Maeda. So then we come to 23-24. But that's quite interesting that if we no longer... But
we don't do it.
Well, I don't. Okay, well, a yes or no. Were we this silly to assume, because somehow I think every Celtic fan for some reason assumed, Hector, that we were going to be potentially breaking our transfer record when Brendan Rodgers came in. We thought Rodgers come in, or I'd talk about Europe. I don't know, did he even say anything like that, or did people just assume it and it was a Chinese whisper that ran round the house?
No. I wouldn't right now, day before the transfer deadline or so, isn't it?
Yeah.
I wouldn't rule us out spending more than £9 million by tomorrow close of business. I would not rule it out. I'm not saying 15. I'm just saying, what is it, 9 million, Edouard? Is that our record?
Yeah.
9 million. I wouldn't rule out us spending £10 million on one player, £11 million on one player right now as things stand, because there's so many things going to happen in the next 24 hours. Here's the thing, Monty's point, we can do it. The cash is there to do it. But that's my point. If you think back, we've discussed this many times, cash in bank, right? We were over £50 million cash in bank before all the money's come in this summer with the season tickets. Before the Champions League guaranteed money's in, which is looking at 30 to 40 million. And we're so far sold Jota, Starfield in euros, about 34 million euros. Our purchases as of up to date, right, are 22 million. We've actually made €12 million in transfer business this summer. No, that's great. Hope that. But do the sums here. We've got over 50 million plus 12 plus Champions League money this year, plus what the money came in the summer. we're possibly sitting with £100 million. Now, I'm going to myself, if ever there's a time for Celtic, a time to say we can get in a fantastic young footballer at £10 million, or maybe two of them, and they won't run massive wages because they're still young, it's now. And if we don't do it now, we're never going to really do it, because we've also brought back Brendan Rodgers, who's not came here for a jolly. We've not brought a guy from Norway, no disrespect to Donny Dyla, a fairly novice coach at the time. This is a top-notch A-level coach we brought back. And it just gets me thinking, I wouldn't rule out us spending big by close business tomorrow. And if we don't, I'm wondering,
what's the
where are we going?
Right.
Where are we going with this?
Can I come back in on that, Desi, just before we maybe bring Ralph in? There's a subtlety in this that it's a reason why when Rangers existed, it was called the Old Firm. That you needed, it's like the old fucking X-Men movies. You need good, bad, yin and yang. You need black and white. You need rivalry. You need two things to create a overarching product that is compelling. And the criticism of the Scottish League, rightly or wrongly, for the last 30 years has been that it's either us or them winning it, which is correct, driven by finances. But that criticism can equally apply to a 10 or 12 team Scottish League, which two teams can win it. There's an English Premier League of which is 24 and 4 teams can win it. It applies everywhere in Europe. There are big teams and then there are not big teams. In that environment, that's why I asked the question, Hector. By buying £10 million players, what do we actually get for it? So weigh it up in board speak, management speak, and in company speak. What do we actually get for the increased risk and the increased risk exposure of £10 million on one asset? What do we get?
So the question I would put back: are we unique? Are we the most risk-averse football club of our size in Europe with £100 million cash burning a hole in our pocket?
No.
That we will refuse ever to say, do you know what? What's the risk reward here? Right? The risk reward is we spent £6 million in Jota. Okay, the Saudi money came in, probably a bit daft. That's extreme. So rather than getting almost 30 million euros, but you've got 18, 20 million from the English print, possibly, right? Carter Vickers, 6 million. We could probably sell him for at least double what we bought him for. So surely if your scouting's good, if your scouting's been demonstrated to be really good, Kyogo, for example, we could probably sell him for 2 or 3 times. Cost us 5 million. If your scouting's really good, and rather than look at a player that's 4, 5, 6 million, you say, I've got belief in everything we are doing as demonstrated by the fact that we're buying good players and we're making 2 or 3 times the money on them. What's to stop us then saying, well, let's look a little bit higher up the band without going daft at a £10 million player, a £12 million player, with the thought of maybe selling them on for 30 million, £35 million. If your scouting operation is quality and your manager's quality, what's to stop that happening?
So the case in point is Odsonne Edouard. £9 million transfer fee, sold for
15
or something, 15 to 18 million, with a 30% of profit above 9 million payable to PSG. Reward on a £9 million risk was 3 million on top of the 9.
So 33% profit.
33%, right?
I mean, we'd all love that, wouldn't we?
Now, take reported bid this evening, Matt O'Reilly, 1.5 million, 10% sell-on clause NK Dons. We've just told Leeds to fuck off for 10 million. Reward. Take Albion Ayeti.
Wait a second.
There. £5 million. We've let him go for less than $1 million.
But that was different scouting, Monty. That's my point. That's a big aspect here. The Barcast and that was nothing like we've got now.
If the scouting model and the knowledge that Mark Lowell, isn't it? Mark Lowell,
yeah.
Peterson.
Yeah.
I just think of the Lowell dynasty. Right. I think of them as the Kellys and Whites, which is really bad, and I shouldn't. If his data and his model and his contacts have been so effective at the 1 million to 5 million bracket, that Jota, basically, you could write off every other fucking player that we signed under Postecoglou. The profit on Jota minus the money that's gone to Benfica probably means that Postecoglou's net spend on that one player's turnover is zero. And we've all these fat assets, not fat in Morelos terms, but really rich, valuable assets that we can now sell. So as a business model, why would you put that at risk? And by the way, I'm devil's advocate. I want 10
I don't want you. No, but devil's advocate. No. We're looking for your honest opinion, not devil's advocate.
So honest opinion, I don't think we will.
Is that Peter at the door, is it?
Was that Mark Lowell at the door?
No, it's just sent in the shower.
Is that Ralph's dead bodies?
I have two 13-week-old kittens running around here in the man cave. We're trying to get them rehomed. Long story. Do I think we'll do it? No. Do I want us to do it? With every fucking sinew I do. I want to see a Harlem Globetrotters fucking all-out attack Celtic with £10 million players. Why? Because I think it would give us a chance of actually doing something in Europe. But again, you made the phrase you used is perfect, Hector. Risk and reward. Odds if Edward had a tank in the way a Yeti tank, we just spaffed 9 million on a guy who hadn't played a first team fucking game for Beats.
Can I just ask, is risk and reward the same as speculate to accumulate? Because that was a phrase someone else famously used to use, I believe, across the water.
Two very different things, Desi. Very, very different things.
I was going like again, your Odson Edwards, you're not like that, like you're £9 million, and okay, you'll sell them for. I just looked up. Apparently, we sold them for 16.3 million euros. So whatever that was at the going transfer rate. But again, it's even if you made 33%, it's the fact that he is a level of player who can come on at Ibrox with 10 men on the park, take the ball 35 yards from goal, drop a shoulder and hit the ball right past the keeper. That's the level of quality you're getting for 9 million. Matt O'Reilly might be good enough to win you the league over the season, but there's no really any guarantee that Matt O'Reilly's got that sort of quality that can win you games like that, and that's what 9 million gets you.
The difference in that is that's 9 million for an unproven 20-year-old when we brought him. That was, I would say, they shot them.
That's a pedigree we bought there.
No. We had him. Remember, he was here for a season first before we purchased him. We hadn't agreed to pay the 9 million. We could have said walked away from it as like Jota and Carter Vickers. So we had that fallback position to prove your worth. So we knew after a year we had a good player in our hands. So it was even lower risk.
So can I ask the question then? Because this then comes down to the nub of this. This young Benfica midfielder winger,
Paulo Bernardo,
the greatest football name ever.
Paulo Bernardo.
You just want him with flowing locks.
He's got to be great, isn't he? I hope he's not shy.
You're just praying he's George Cadetti and hoping he's not a dud.
Would you be happy to take on into our first team environment 5 of those on the basis that they're all aged 19, 20, 21? They've all got huge potential, but they're not going to break through in their tier 1 clubs. And take all them and let this be us as our conveyor belt now. And say, we will take your young, brilliant, but just not brilliantly enough, and we'll spaff 6 to 10 million on them in the hope that when they break through at Celtic, we'll give them a year to bed in, see if they like it, to get first team football, and then we'll put 10 million on the table to take them off you, in the knowledge that they're going to be gone within a year to 2 years. You happy with that? You happy with that model?
Do you want to ask any Wolverhampton Wanderers fan? Because that's literally their model, isn't it? That's been their model. That's been their model for the last 3 years. They're in the Premiership. They're quite happy. Brighton to an extent, but Brighton have now kicked on to another level where they're getting Barcelona wonder kids choosing Brighton over Chelsea. That's like
Mark Crosas.
But I tweeted that day. Football has changed forever when Ansu Fati is choosing Brighton. Right, let me see. Is Ralph, are you unmuted? Can we hear you and can you hear us?
Unmute yourself, Ralph, can you? No. Fuck.
No. Either that, you'll have to leave the call and come back in. All we can see, folks,
it does look like a sinister serial killer, doesn't it?
Ralph looks like one of the guys you seen a Peter Howson picture. You know what I mean? He looks like one of the Gallagate Peter Howson.
Sorry, I've just realised I said a sinister serial killer. What else kind of serial killer can you get?
Right, Ralph. Ralph, try unmuting yourself on your phone, or else exit and come back in, and then we'll get your thoughts.
I'm hoping when we do his audio. I was just about to say, when we get his audio, I'm hoping he's got a real dark Cockney fucking growl. Right, you fucking.
Right, Ralph, are you in the garden? Are you in the back? It's black.
I'm in the water, just popped up.
Oh wow! That's the telephone covered, isn't it? When he's got a hostage.
That was a serial killer voice.
Right. I was listening to a couple of points there. Just
Can you drop off and come back in? That's
right. Your audio is gubbed. You have to try exiting. Unless you're just at a hospital and you've had a throat operation. We can't really.
Right, wait now.
No, it's still the same. Try holding the phone close to your face.
He sounded like fucking Reagan from The Exorcist there.
That would have been good. Right, so hold on, Hector. Let's just check in. Aberdeen, is it still 2-0?
2-0, but by the way, they should have scored 3 goals themselves. They should be 3-2 up. The sitters they've missed. That's football.
And even worse, they've got to suffer Neil McCann at Pittodrie, so that's even more of a shame.
But Desi,
right,
yes. and that was all good, but we're obviously going to talk about the first team, right, and probably the performances so far, which we're all a bit frustrated, stroke disappointed so far.
Hold on, drum roll. Hello, Ralph.
Right, hello, can you hear me this time?
That's better.
Exactly, yes, you're sounding loud and clear. Well, welcome back, Ralph. It's been a while. How are you?
I'm all right. One or two things going on as usual, but I'm working my way through them. How's that sound?
Very good. Very good. So what's your thoughts on the Group E, Feyenoord, Atletico Madrid, Lazio, Ralph? What do you think about the draw today?
It's not very inspiring, is it? It's kind of dull.
Oh, come on. Would you rather
I'll tell you what.
Is that what you're saying? You'd rather get Europa League?
I wanted the Seville and Arsenal group because that looked a wee bit more doable. Plus, there's not one of those 3 places I would want to go to either. However, it did bring back memories of a semi-final back in '74 when I was a wee boy listening to the second leg on the radio with my dad and my uncle. So I would like a wee bit of revenge for that, because I think genuinely we could have won a second European Cup that year. But then again, I was 9 years old. If we hadn't won the European Cup, we'd have won the Intergalactic Cup or something.
And I would just like to apologise to the grand cities of Rotterdam, Madrid and Rome for Ralph's takedown there. Oh, it's no very inspiring places to go.
They're not quite stoked, to be fair, are they?
Hector,
Telford either, no.
Hector, let me say to you earlier on, do you think Madrid will be a little bit surprised when they don't have another 60,000 Celtic fans turning up for the Atletico game compared to the Bernabeu?
They're going to be all prepared and realise you're lucky if you're about 3,000 go this time, I think, to Atletico.
All the time will be starting himself.
Did we not play them in 1980 something or 90 something?
Yeah, I remember behind closed doors. It was the year after. Was the year after Rapid Vienna? Was it?
I think, yeah, it could have been.
It was, yeah.
Could have been. Pretty sure that Tommy Burns scored against them, or Maurice Johnston. Remember him? Pretty sure. I tell you what, Atletico Madrid doesn't bring back some bad memories. You know, Maurice Johnston and that Argentinian manager. Anyway,
my nephew was in Madrid. My nephew was in Madrid recently, and he'd done the Atletico tour. He said it was cracking, so he really enjoyed it. So it might be a good trip. It'll be interesting to see when the dates come out. I think they're talking like tomorrow night or Saturday.
Saturday morning, Desi. Saturday morning.
All right, we'll wait and see. So I dare say EasyJet and Ryanair will know before anybody they put the prices up. Or Monty Seaburns Airlines, which flies across all major European locations these days.
Starting from the Iberian Peninsula and
working. Buses are running from your local Faro airport. Wherever you find. So Ralph, we've moved on from Group E, so it's nice to know we're in Europe. Rangers are waiting the Europa League tomorrow, so that was a nice watch last night. So we were talking about signings and the board's performance and the signings reaction this summer so far, Ralph?
It's been kind of strange. I picked up on the tail end of the conversation there when Hector was talking about £10 million players. But if Leeds United have just offered £10 million for Matt O'Reilly, does that not make him a £10 million player? And if there's going to be bigger bids for the likes of Kyogo Furuhashi, does that not make him a £20 million player? So are we in fact getting into the Champions League with players of that value? Just because we didn't pay that for them doesn't mean they're not worth that.
No, Ralph, we're talking about make the team better. So add a bit more first team quality to help those guys like the Kyogos, you know.
Well, here's another, last season. Well, no, it was 2 years ago when Postecoglou came in. And we were all talking, we were all saying he wasn't pragmatic enough and we were going to get lost in Europe and so on and so forth. But we could see what he was trying to do. And this season with Rodgers, the general opinion is that we can't see what he's trying to do. There doesn't seem to be any cohesion. That's maybe down to the unfamiliarity amongst the players and so on. But is he moving players around, such as Kyogo, into a number 10 for a European game? Has he bought in extra centre-backs to play a European way? Is he actually working towards something? Or are we just hoping against hope?
Ralph, that's a perfect lead-up because Hector has actually got notes. Thank God Monty's sitting down.
Being a grandad, Desi, that's it. All changed now. Memory's gone.
He's sitting with his Werther's original. He's home is bed and he's ready to go. Ready to break.
Have you got a tartan?
Desi's got the tartan shawl on the wee main stand at Celtic Park.
He's done Midsummer Murders ITV fee off and he's made some notes for us tonight. Hector, you've been having some thoughts on the whole Brendan.
Yeah, area. It was just that you touched upon. We've got the chat and we all share different opinions, yada. But we're 4 games into the season, 3 league games and lost the League Cup game, and we're not blind. We can all see it. It's been slow, a bit of a malaise, but we're not anywhere near where we want to be. And I dare say Brendan Rodgers, more than any of us, where he wants to be. He's mentioned that several times, but I just wanted to take a wee step back. And I don't think this is just this season. I was looking at the kind of performances and results since April last season, right? And towards the end of April, we played Rangers in the Scottish Cup semi-final, and we beat them 1-0, and we were poor. We were really poor. In fact, probably a draw was probably fair because the second half we were not in the game at all. But the week before that, at Hope and Motherwell, we drew 1-1 at Celtic Park. Another poor performance, right? We won the league at Tynecastle week after that. Then after that, the games were at Ibrox, 3-0. Yep, Ange played a lot of players who wouldn't normally have started. Carter Vickers was missing. He was rested, got his operation. But we lost 3-0 at Ibrox. We get a bit of a doing. The week after that, home to St Mirren, Celtic Park, we drew 2 each. Now, Desi, St Mirren should have pumped us 4 or 5-2 that game at Celtic Park. I think the big striker missed a couple of sitters for them.
Yep.
Week after that, Easter Road, Hibs pumped us 4-2 at Easter Road. We then had our last Flag Day at Celtic Park. Sorry, Flag Day, the presentation, Aberdeen, 5-0. Really strong performance. Then the Scottish Cup final against Inverness. And let's be honest, we were pretty shit in that game as well. So I was trying to say this, that there was a bit of a malaise the last 6-7 games of the season.
Did you feel the writing was on the wall already? Long bite before, before that?
But it all culminated in Ange leaving, right? And as we know these things, we discussed this, that doesn't happen overnight. So what I'm getting at is, players aren't stupid. The Celtic board would have been aware of this. Players would have found out. It had an impact to some degree on the players and the performances, I think, knowing that Ange was leaving, right? We then had Brendan coming in, and the shock of Brendan coming in, which we've all spoken about many, many times, something we never thought would ever happen again. And there he is. Bobby Ewing's come out the shower. Good old Brendan's back again. We've touched upon how since Brendan's came back, it's not been the Brendan that we all love and dare I say hate, right? It's been so
Monty loves.
He's been
Leave him alone. He's a mate.
But I'm just trying to build a wee picture here. He's been so subdued, un-Brendan-like, because he's actually trying to show, dare I say it, a touch of humility, which isn't like him. And you can, even the results this season, he's been so quiet, he's been so reserved. I'm here to coach, develop young players. I'm with the board. And it's as if, Brendan, bring us back the Brendan we love and hate. Get your buzz out. Lie like fuck. Tell us shit. You're not yourself. And I just think there's been this culmination of 2-3 months of this happening. But the biggest thing for me, this is the biggest thing. Of our strongest team last season, of the 10 outfield players, 6 of the 10 outfield players have been missing. They've either been sold, retired, or injured. Arthur Johnson just came back his first game last week. Carter Vickers, Starfelt, Hatate, Aaron Moy, and Jota. 6 of our 10 strongest team last year have been missing. That has to have some impact on what we're trying to do this season. 1 or 2 accept, 6. That's a massive change to the team, the structure, familiarity, how we play. And it's just got me thinking, we've got to weigh all these things up as a support. And I know it's not always easy. You lose a game and everything goes fucking mental. But I think sometimes we've got to just take a wee step back, weigh up everything that's happening, and realise, are we there yet? No. But the volume of change that's happening, players going to still arrive as we're speaking tonight, and maybe reassess things in maybe 2 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time, 4 weeks' time. That's just my view based on everything.
Yeah, right, okay, right. So, Monty, I know you did not catch the horror that was the St Johnstone game, right? It was literally everything that could be boring was boring. I'm not going to say. And then by the end of it, and it could be just because it was only cards I had left to play, by the end of it, it looks as though Brendan basically says, I'm going to try and throw all the shit I have on that bench at the wall and hope somebody sticks. Brutally honest, right? We didn't appear to have any semblance of a plan, right? So my question to you, Monty, is: have we as a fan base underestimated the transition for those players from an Ange dictator style visionary manager, and I mean visionary as in this is my vision and you will adhere to my vision, to a Brendan, arm round your shoulder, passive, concentrated, passing, take your time, do not take risks manager? Are they caught in a malaise where they don't really, they're neither one or the other, and they're caught somewhere in between? That's the impression I get. What do you think?
I think with a lot of how you're summarising it, you're bang on the money. Even though it sounds like, well, hold on a minute, it's just a new guy, you do what he says. The cultural shift so if you start from the top and work your way down, business bullshit bingo for 5 minutes. The guy at the top sets the culture, the tone, and the direction. Postecoglou did that in a directive style. So he said, this is what I'm fucking wanting. Kennedy, go out and do that cones exercise that I've just scribbled out in the, what? Strachan, go and analyse how I can make fucking Maeda more effective when he cuts it. Whatever. Fuck off and do that. Leave me alone. I've got bigger, aura, detachment from players. And then the other part is he's an incredibly emotionally intelligent man. You don't normally get that in football. So's Rodgers, by the way, but 2 very, very different character types. Postecoglou is very, very credible and believable. So when Postecoglou says, you own the dressing room, this is classic. It's high-performance culture stuff, behaviours and metrics. That's Postecoglou's world. It's all, by the way, it's Aussie elite sports leads the way in this. If you want high performance and anything that has made its way into British sports, let's call it, by and large, it spawned its fucking genesis down in Australia. They've done this for decades. Behaviours, metrics, this is what I expect. Here's how I'm going to measure you. Fuck off and do it. You own the dressing room. When I get you ready, you're going to go out and do what I've told you to do. Now it's Rodgers. I'm a coach. So the whistle probably goes every 35 seconds to go, now you, Desi, I want you to move just slightly to the right, and big hugs and well done, all that positive reinforcement. But now you've got an individual plan, and you're now accountable to Brenton for your individual plan. You're not accountable to the group anymore. And that's his mechanism and his methodology from the first time he was here. I know I keep saying it, I can't remember the fucking acronym that he had. And I don't know if you boys, any of you picked up on the subtleties of the behind the scenes footage that you would have seen when Postecoglou was there. Did you see the Hampton Park dressing room? There's one of those mad cats behind me, by the way. Video. Did you see the footage, the behind the scenes footage of Hampton Park for both the cup finals? You see the dressing rooms and the way the dressing rooms were laid out? Banners, each one of the players, life size, with taglines, "Our football brings results." That was one of the actual phrases used on these banners. Believe. It sounds like bullshit, right?
Ted Lasso.
Yeah, but it's tacked into the culture that Postecoglou brought. Rodgers has a similar thing, but it's done on an individual basis. So it's why the more intelligent player like Matt O'Reilly, because Matt O'Reilly's a very intelligent man, he's fucking loving it. He's getting one-to-one direction now. It's probably why the Japanese players haven't totally warmed to it yet. Because Japanese culture is very much deferent and polite. And so if Rodgers is saying to somebody, I think he can fucking do that a lot better, that's a criticism. They'll take that away and ruminate on it and think about it. And it's why Maeda, if you remember his interview a few weeks ago, it's probably why Maeda's struggling with the detachment. Because Maeda would then go and do his best and go to Postecoglou. How did it do? You did well. A couple of other things. See you next week. You know, I'm theorizing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that cultural change on an individual basis is huge. The cultural change of the dressing room now no longer being their preserve is fucking massive as well. Instead of McGregor and Hart and, you know, even Taylor as senior players, I would argue this is why Taylor has fucking completely dipped in performance levels. Those boys were the fucking leaders in that room. There's nobody else above them. It was their way. And all of these other younger, newer, different cultural players warmed to them. That's all gone now. I think Rodgers' subdueness is based on, this is a completely different challenge for him now. Because all of those cultures, they're alien to him. I don't think he's ever managed players from that part of the world, especially at that age group as well. So it's complex. It's fucking wonderful. There's books to be written on it, I'm sure. But I think we genuinely did underestimate it, Desi.
Yeah, but so Ralph, putting Hector and Monty's points together there, is it a case of we just need Brendan to come out of this shell and be Mr. Visionary, so to speak? Because again, I like the football we are playing, Ralph. No one is playing those dynamic passes. Everyone's going back away as if I don't want to be the guy who makes a mistake, who does the thing the manager told me not to. Hatate didn't look as though he was been favoured. Awata doesn't look as though he's been favoured. The guys who under Postecoglou would be encouraged to take risks. The guy, like Postecoglou's mantra was, play the ball forward, I will back you for taking that risk. That is, we drive forward, whereas Rodgers is, take the chance when the chance is 69.74% more likely to come off. He's analysed that to that extent, so to speak. Do not take any risk. Do not play a ball between two opponents when there's an easier chance of playing the horseshoe and starting again. So, Ralph, do you think we still need Brendan to push through somehow, or is it just a case of these things take a wee bit of time and he's not really had long enough yet?
You know, when you do look at it like that, it does look more and more like he's trying to plan something for a European-style game for Europe. I think maybe he thinks that domestically we're going to triumph anyway with what we've got, but he needs to change it differently for the European thing.
He did
I like that thought because it sounds optimistic.
I'm trying to be optimistic. I watched the
Ralph,
Johnston game. I'm looking for optimism anywhere.
Didn't Rodgers say something when he joined about, you know, someone?
They wanted to make a mark in Europe, yeah.
Yeah, and he said something about he's not averse to a bit of pragmatism, I think was his exact phrase. That he's open to being pragmatic with the team. Maybe you're onto something there. We're playing very, very measured and very slow on the basis of maybe that he's teaching them the way that they want to play. And you can tune it down.
Yeah, I suppose it's better teaching them here than it is teaching them in Europe. You don't want to try something new in the first couple of Champions League games and find yourselves with nothing and with too much work to do to get back into it. It might work. At least it gives us an idea that he's doing something rather than breaking. He's making something rather than breaking something, which seems to be the sort of general opinion just now. Whatever, I suppose it's going to be fascinating.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing about making a break. Listen, everybody's points. It's been fascinating listening to everybody's points. But the thing about frustrating thing for me, and it's put Rodgers to one side, was the reaction by quite a large number of fans after the game against St Johnstone. We're all frustrated. There's nobody more frustrated. We lose a game to Kilmarnock, we're frustrated. We draw nothing at home at St Johnstone, who have been dire this season, we're frustrated. But you've seen some of the footage and some of the fans giving dogs abuse to the manager, the players. 4 games into the season, 3 into the league season, and we're top of the league. And I scratched my head thinking, is that where we're at? What if we're not pumping teams at home regular, then you're going to get dogs abuse and fucking this and fucking that and the Vicky and the finger get to fuck. Is that where we are after 3 league games?
But is that no representative of the summer where people feel let down?
Really? Is that the behaviour, Des? Is that the behaviour you do as a sane human being?
No, I'm just saying.
No. You can't say that. No, but do you think it's right? Do you think that's good? That behaviour is acceptable?
I think if people have got a grievance, we're not here to tell anybody how to support Celtic.
Behave as a civilised human being. No,
but you can play the whole. We have been spoiled for the last 20 years, and we haven't won the League Cup. We've only won the League Cup 15 times outside a certain period, etc. If people are pissed off with whatever the club are doing or not doing when they should have been doing, you were the very guy that said months ago we're sitting on 100 million.
Absolutely.
So again, people might
as I said in this podcast tonight, yeah.
Aye, but I'm saying, so people might be going, why are we in such a state? We've got a team which we're having to rely on our Scales, Liam Scales. No harm to Liam Scales, but why should we be having to rely on the Liam Scales?
Because our centre halves all get injured at one time.
No, but that's what I'm trying to point out is that's the exasperation and the anger and frustration.
I'm frustrated, Desi.
Channeling and funneling up.
I'm frustrated. I'm not going to give the finger and the Vicky to the coach and the fucking players. 3 games into the league season, we're top of the league. That's stupid. I mean, that just defies fucking belief.
Can I
it's wrong. It's wrong. Should be called out for being fucking pathetic.
Can I bring us back to a happier time, but the same context? Let me quote. This is the world we're living in at the minute. Barcelona could win the double in Spain, but a lot of their fans are calling for Ernesto Valverde's head because they get knocked out in the semi-finals of Champions League. Expectations, whatever you want to call it, are sometimes unrealistic, but it's the modern day fan. It's fast food stuff. They want the next thing very, very quickly. Quote, what the younger generation of our fans shouldn't take for granted is what these current Celtic players are doing and what they have done. It's remarkable. I can't believe I'm sitting here talking about a treble. Winning the treble was the holy grail back in the day. These boys have won 2 in a row, are on the cusp of a third. It's incredible. So maybe there's a sense of entitlement among the younger fans that we never had before. Neil Francis Lennon, 16th of May, 2019. Now look how it ended up for him.
Apologies, Marty. Before you continue, but
and look what's now happening. We're top dog, guys. It's not a comfortable place for us culturally as Celts. We don't like being top dog. We're far better being the underdog. We're far more united when we're the underdog and we've got a cause. But right now, I agree with Hector. What the fuck are you doing? You're top of the league. You had a bad day at the office on a plastic pitch. There's a massive ream of change going on. Just calm the fuck down.
It does emphasise how difficult it is to win 1 treble, let alone 3 or 4.
You're away again.
A bad decision from the referee, a bad day at the office, like you say, and it's gone.
Ralph, stop.
It's a shame you're up, Ralph, because that's a really good point you've just made. But you're
already back in again, Ralph. Come back in again,
Ralph. You have to dial back in again. But again, I can tell you for a start, it's not just young fans were annoyed and started.
What's this?
Listen, I'm not defending anybody. I'm
You
just saying.
were one of the guys booing and giving the Vicky. I seen you.
No. I was the guy burning.
Rogers must go, fucking banner. Bring back Neil.
I liked the season card, and I was the guy throwing out the board. But a lot of the frustration, especially in the main stand, apart from the main A,
the pies were too cold or something, was it? Is that right? Yeah.
The blankets weren't of a particular shag.
Daisy, come on to fuck. Listen, come on. You're a clever person, a clever man, an adult. Seriously.
Listen,
but behaviour, human behaviour. Seriously, come on to fuck.
Right, all I am saying is I believe it may be a representation of frustration more than just anger at one game. That's all I'm saying to you, right? I'm not defending it. I'm not saying I was.
What's your opinion? What's your opinion?
My opinion is I am not fit to comment on
anyone.
Get
off the fucking fence. Fucking hell, man.
Starmer has just joined
us. He is, fucking new ETIMS, new Labour. Here he comes.
If you want to complain.
Off the fence, for fuck's sake.
But my splintered arse is comfortable enough. Thanks very much.
So here, Ralph had a really, really good point, which unfortunately got tagged by the bad audio. Ralph,
see again.
You were coming back in on that point around people's reaction.
Losing that game to Kilmarnock showed just how difficult it is to win one treble, never mind 3 or 4. It takes a bad. Is it gone again?
Let the man speak. Let the man. Don't be so rude. That's that behaviour. That's that the type of behaviour that's fucking letting the fan base down.
Fucking South Stand malcontents.
Wow. When did he suddenly get an opinion?
Where's my lighter?
But that just shows you that we did very well to get the accomplishments that have been achieved over the last 5, 6, maybe 10 years. And when one of them slips away because of a bad referee or a referee that we have maybe the perception of bias in, or a bad pitch or just a bad performance all round, it shows you how fragile a treble can be. So it's done now. We can't change it. No, we can't change it. So we can move on and we try and get the other 2 trophies and we try and get a run in Europe. Sometimes this 2 to 3 year model, it can be frustrating. We've got to start all over again. But in a sense, we haven't.
Look at the change. Look at the change we've just discussed in this podcast. I mean, a slight bit, and here's the problem. It requires a modicum of common sense to look at the change. And I think we're looking at some people who just don't want to weigh these things up. Emotions get high. We're all emotional. We're all pissed off when we lose at Kilmarnock. Not one of us was fucking happy. We're going, fucking hell, that was shit. St Johnstone, fucking hell, that was shit. Then we switch on, we move on with it. We move on. You don't give dogs abuse to the players after 3 games when they're top of the league. That's just insane behaviour.
It's not even the end of August yet.
Fuck me, man.
People throwing wobblies and...
Lennon nailed it.
Welcome to
it's a fucking clapper. Whether you like to say that or not.
No, it's civil behaviour, Desi. Come on, civil behaviour.
Oh, come on, you. See you. I remember you running about Queensland. Now you're talking about civil behaviour.
Desi, I was 16 then, Desi. I'm now a grandad. I'm more responsible, Desi.
I am now a grandad. That's all we need. So the thing, mate, just talking about just quickly.
My grandson won't be acting like that. I'll let you know this, boy.
The back of my hand on his arse. That's what you'll be saying next. I just suddenly pictured, when we were talking about Brendan there, the real Brendan coming back, I suddenly had a picture of Brendan using his Spanish accent, Monty, when he starts playing against Atletico. No, that's the idea. The whole Kieran Tierney, it is nice to be here interview. Real Sociedad. Right, so moving on from that civil unrest, Sunday's game. We're looking at Sunday's game. So Ralph, I'll come to you first. What do you feel about Sunday's game? Are you bothered? Are you excited? What sort of changes do you expect? Is all the new guys going to get flung straight in, etc.? What's your thoughts?
I don't think he would be daft enough to fling all the new guys in. We'll go with what you're talking about. Liam Scales. He scored against them the last time he played against them. He knows what to expect. But I think you'll maybe see one of what's his name, the boy for Liverpool. I think if he is fit, he'll get thrown in.
Phillips.
Because that's what loans are for. You get a crisis, you get somebody into cover. That is, I would have thought, specifically why we're bringing him in to strengthen the defence. As for the rest of it, he'll probably just go with what he's been going with. We'll play a European way again. It'll be cautious, and we'll hit Tavernier every time he wanders up front. I think we'll get away with a 1 or 2-0 win. Unless they get their penalty. Mind you, yes, Don Robertson and Alan Muir in it. Oh, gee, there'll be about 4 each, and they'll get 4 penalties. I forgot about them. And that's a point that needs raising. How on earth, after the debacle at Kilmarnock, of their performance, have they got that game? But then I suppose the answer's in the question.
It's because they played a blinder at Kilmarnock.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah. And I would like to see our club.
Maybe people should direct their anger at the officials rather than the team. Think of it along those ways. So, Monty, what about you? What do you think? Do you think? I noticed you kind of raising your eyebrows there when Ralph says I can't see him throwing too many in. What do you think?
I think that anybody that comes in this week will go straight into the team. This is to Hector's earlier point. I think Phillips will definitely start, the Honduran winger. It's not that he's came from Honduras. He's been in Greece, which is a couple of hours behind. He'll start. If the Portuguese midfielder, Bernardo, he'll start. And you'll start now to see I have a funny feeling, Hector. You got me thinking about, but where would we spend the money? There's very few left backs that you would spend 10 million on. You know what I mean? Even the big boys don't spend huge money on left backs. So I have a funny feeling if we're going to spend big, it'll be for that position, and it'll be for an established left back. I don't think they'll start, but I think that'll be the start now. Remember, we said with Postecoglou, the manager needs 3 windows. And then it's his team and it's his squad. So as regards Sunday, Desi, I had an epiphany last night watching the PSV game. And it really was. It was a moment of clarity, illumination, call it what you will. But I think this is the first time in my near 50 years on the planet that the result on Sunday is of no consequence to me. I don't really fucking have any nerves about it, any sense of foreboding about it. We can come out either side of it, and I think we're still on the right track with everything structurally that we have. I still want us to pump the fuckers 4 or 5, but I don't think we'll get it easy. I'd be all right with a draw, to be honest with you. But either side of that coin, I don't think it's the end of the world, nor are we going to be world beaters. With far, far bigger fish to fry. The manager's ethos and culture needs to be embedded. There's no league's going to be one on Sunday. But if you could put a mark on them, if we could beat them at Ibrox on Sunday, you're really putting huge pressure on them. But I don't think we'll win. Honestly, I hate saying that, but I don't think it's of any particular concern either. Whatever way it goes on Sunday, it's just another league game. I'd like to see us progress and be a lot better than we were against St John's.
Mm-hmm. Well, whoever's watching the game we use won the lottery, haven't they?
You've not taken me yet.
I was about to say, so we get on.
Wow.
They've kidnapped them and replaced them with a positive Ralph. Now I get that back in.
Hector, before I ask you to drill down into the actual team and Sunday itself, it is quite amazing the difference that a week's a long time in politics. It's literally 24 hours or 48 hours is an extremely long time in football. 48 hours we're all kind of wondering where the team was coming from on Sunday. And then suddenly we start getting a few quality signings in. Rangers get pumped last night. Suddenly the pressure's back on Beale. They need to come out and actually make some sort of statement on the pitch on Sunday. And it's all kind of like the seesaw of Scottish football just rapidly goes up and down, Hector. It's quite surreal how these things go.
I was just thinking about the weekend's game. It's all about honest opinions based on what we've discussed tonight. Ange last season played them twice at Ibrox. Okay, we mentioned the 3-0 game almost being a dead dropper, but let's be honest, a lot of our first team players also played in that game, and we were terrible. We got a doing. The 2 each game at New Year time, we get out of jail. We get a very late equaliser. So that was me Angie's team last year. I think having no away fans has a massive impact on these games. Massive impact. And MD to think that 50,000 of them screaming abuse at us with not any Celtic fans there it will have an impact. I'm concerned. We've just discussed it. We've got a new team we're trying to kind of put together. A lot of big players injured or unavailable. Carter Vickers being one of them in particular. No Jota, no Rio. Then again, Rio's not kicked a ball at Ibrox in the games we played them there. I'm concerned that physically they'll bully us on Sunday. I think they'll get let away with things that you wouldn't normally get away with, thanks to the officials there. Yellow cards that are just straight yellow cards, you won't see it. So I'm concerned that we might get bullied on Sunday with them. That is my biggest concern there. And as things stand right now, I would take a point there on Sunday. If you ask me the question at the corresponding fixture in 6 months' time, I think I'll have a significantly different answer. But based on where we are, the squad change, we've discussed it to bits tonight. I'm just worried that we might get bullied and kicked off the park and come Sunday. That's my concern.
No, I think it's perfectly valid. I don't know. I've seen various rumours. Somebody mentioned that Phillips might be injured or at least not up to speed. I think that we're all of a consensus is if he's got a pair of boots and he can walk into Ibrox, then he starts. So I'm assuming Scales will go to the bench and it'll be Lagerbielke. And then you've got Taylor. So again, we'll target Taylor. You've got Johnson. He's solid. You know what I mean? Hart again. Just do your job. We done his job against St Johnson. Just clear your lines. We don't need the sweeper keeper. But it's like the middle of the park. What happens there? Because O'Reilly and Turnbull and McGregor haven't worked so far this season. I'm not being overly critical. I don't think I'm saying that. There's clearly an imbalance, or there's no physicality that we need to be winning balls and moving balls fast enough. We're taking 2 and 3 touches when we are in possession. So that's when you miss like a Hatate, letting the ball roll and move and people running into space. Maeda can't find a yard anywhere because he's been told to hug the line and try and take a man on. That's not his game. So I really don't know how Kyogo is wandering about trying to get into the game. We're not playing to his strengths. Yeah. If he does come out the box, there's no one running into that space. No, that way we've not got a Stuart Armstrong going ahead of the striker. Maybe that will be Bernardo. I don't know. It'd be great to think, as you say, Hector, the next game they'll all be ready for those sort of game plans. But I think maybe this came too early this time.
Can I throw let me throw a random team at you then. Hart will start. Johnson will start. Lagerbeek and Phillips. There's your back four. McGregor, O'Reilly, and Bernardo, if he signs. Turnbull will drop to the bench. The Honduran, Palma. Palma. On the right-hand side, probably Abada, but I'm not sure that he's a cert. And if Palma can play the right-hand side, you might see a complete left field here of Palma and Yang. And I have a funny feeling he's going to start with Maeda, centre forward, not Kyogo.
But surely Maeda, one of Maeda's big assets is he nullifies Tavernier.
Yang or Palma are both athletic wingers. Palma apparently his biggest strength is his direct ability to take on a man and beat him 1-1, and he's also.
But that's not the same. See, no, sorry, Monty, that's not the same because I saw that for years with Paddy Roberts and James Forrest. Paddy Roberts was great for the halfway line going towards their goal, but he never came back over the halfway line towards your goal. Whereas James Forrest and Lustig were doing the same. They were partnered up and down that line all the time. The Gardner, you know what I mean? He was helping to cover.
Yang works his balls up. I think Yang fits Rodgers' mould perfectly. Abada, probably still a wee bit too lightweight for Rodgers, but also fits his mould perfectly. So, but I just have a funny feeling he sees Maeda in that dropping deep. We talked about it in the WhatsApp. Rodgers' centre forward is the Edouard type, the guy who drops deep, links play, turns and spins and goes. What do you call him? Hodgson is doing exactly this at Palace with Edouard. Edouard's got a new lease of life now because they're playing to his strengths. I have a funny feeling that that's the last piece of our puzzle. Even though Kyogo has signed an extension, and so has Maeda, we could be looking for that type of centre forward in the next window for Rodgers. But in the meantime, it's going to be Maeda. Because Kyogo doesn't do it. It's not.
Jamie Vardy is more like Kyogo. How he plays.
Well, he's a channeler, isn't he?
Can I just see, just in terms of the team, just thinking, I'd made my point about them being aggressive, as we always expect, right? And blah blah blah, right? But in terms of us, this is where the Rodgers factor's intriguing. What we all agree upon is the guy is a fucking coach, right? He's a top-notch coach, top-notch manager. He knows tactics inside out. He's more adaptable than Ange. Ange this is it. Where they're going to live or die by this approach, pretty much. Rodgers is more subtle. So what I'm getting is, it wouldn't surprise me if he does a couple of things different this weekend. I think he's got to. So one will be 2 or 3 possibly new players. You guys have touched upon it there. Possibly 2 or 3 new players. But in terms of tactics and how we play, so what we do have in an abundance is up the attacking end. We'll get lots of pace in an abundance. The one way to exploit pace against a team who aren't blessed with great pace, right? Suter, Goldson, and a poor fullback and defensively in Tavernier, right, is to give us half a pitch to exploit. So part of me is thinking, well, he'll maybe concede a wee bit of possession to try and bring them up to the halfway line, to utilise Maeda as a set to start, as is Kyogo, to utilise their strength, which is coming, spinning, and filling that big space in behind the Rangers' defence. And I'm just wondering, almost a rope-a-dope is going through his head. Mm-hmm. Keep possession to the degree. You've got to kill the game at times. We get all that. But a slight rope-a-dope tactics to bring them up, then bang, on the break, and behind them, half a pitch. I'm wondering if that's what he might consider come this weekend.
That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think
that would play to our strengths and to their weaknesses.
I think it's one of the first goals of winner games. If we score first, then that crowd will go mental. I mean, because he's already under enough pressure as it is.
Yeah.
And if there's no Celtic fans there, you know how that's going to go really ugly, I think. And if we can discontain them, I'm not sure we've got the players at the moment who can contain them. I don't know. Again, we've not got enough strength for composure at the moment.
I'm glad Alistair Johnson's back, Desi, in particular. Massive player to back, physically and quality of player.
Yeah. Somehow the ref will manage to book him in 8 minutes just for looking at him. So one of the classics. There'll be the USA. It'll be Cantwell and Raskin will go in and Noble, probably even a Lundstrom or a Ryan Jack, try and hack everybody for 10 minutes. The minute you start to Scott Brown, hack everybody in a Celtic top for 8 minutes, and then as soon as a Celtic player causes one foul, that's you booked. It was either Scott Brown or Callum McGregor used to be, remember? Yep. So it'll be interesting. But I think it will be whoever scores first will win the game if there's a win. If we get a draw, I think every Celtic fan will be happy enough because, as you say, we're looking a little bit further down the line. Come the Christmas game, then we should be fully prepared to play our game against them. I don't think we're quite ready at the moment. So I had something else. I can't remember. I had something else to ask Ralph. Let me see if it's from my list.
There was a wee thought that somebody on our supporters club WhatsApp had. Caramel Cadendali is away to Blackpool now. Remember the great hope of the Celtic youth system, etc. He's at Blackpool, and is it not a terrible thing that he's not even tall enough to get on any of the rides?
No, but mate, so then that's you just honest to God, I've got it written here as you can see in my just under that transition. We were talking about the transition. I've got Academy ? With Rocca Vata being interesting. Other people to come and sign him. Apparently, we rejected a almost £500,000 bid for him a day, and he was attracting interest from Verona. But my question, Hector, we can go to you first. Is there any point in the academy, given the fact that we seem to be able to pick up a Matt O'Reilly or whatever for £1 million? Let other teams develop these players, and then we just go and pay development fees. Is the academy? Is it any use at the moment? I mean, we're playing that civil with the civil strollers, get up with him, and Dan O'Day say, no, it was a great performance. Do we think there's any point in it?
It's a very
Is that
young.
simplistic?
It's a very young team. Desi, see the team that played last year in that. Many of them have moved on. Are now part of the squad, the first team squad. So it's a very young, almost an under 18s. It becomes the B team. So there's a high turnover. So I wouldn't get too wound up in that. I think for young guys, a 16, 17 playing men, a 30, 31. And as you know, I went to see quite a few games last year. And it's not like back in our day where it was guys just hoofing the ball. There was actually a lot of good football because a lot of the guys playing for the Spartans and other teams came from the senior divisions. So they've came through academies. So it's quite different. But to answer your question, I think it's vital for us to keep the academy. Kieran Tierney, would we sell him for 20, 25 million? Came back through time. Aidan McGeady, back in the day, 10, 12 million. So there's always a player. My concern is that we seem to be losing a lot of them. You know,
exactly.
A couple went to Bayern Munich the other year, didn't they? Then Liverpool, Ben Doak. Although we nicked Ben Doak, to be fair, we nicked Ben Doak for Kilmarnock. So we've got to remember these things, right? So we seem to be losing a lot of them. So there's something somewhere. Are we not playing the game in terms of offering a reasonable amount to retain the best talent? Or what's missing?
Or we're not offering enough avenues into the first team, i.e., should a Rocca Vata be getting prioritised over a James Forrest at this point in his career? That kind of thing for a 10-minute spurt, or is it a case of, well, if he's not shown enough, he's not shown enough, but then he'll get to score a goal midweek?
I think that's it in a nutshell. I think we romanticize about the simplicity of bringing a player into a first team environment in a professional football environment, that somehow they get to 18 or 19 and there should just automatically be a path there for them. The ruthlessness of that environment is that this guy who's going to be 5 years, 3, 4, 5 years older than him, who wants to keep that space, who's working harder than him, who's more athletic, who's more developed than them. So unless they're exceptional, the path to Celtic isn't there. Doak is exceptional in terms of his pace. I'm actually staggered that he did so well. I just obviously underrated him. But I think the attraction for a bigger named club or a better environment, that's really what it is. They go to Liverpool and the glamour of EPL 2 instead of the Lowland League. So you're playing against similar age players from academies, from all of these other big teams, in front of crowds in many cases of 10, 15, 20,000 when it comes to the cup competitions. I don't know, Desi, I don't know whether we could ever create a model that would say that we'll just sacrifice the League Cup and play the kids the way the English top teams do. I don't think we can. I don't think, back to our entitlement debate, I don't think our fans...
Yeah.
Well, okay, Ralph then. Ralph, do we need a review of that show? Do we need a review of the kind of approach?
It's the idea of fast food, isn't it? We need results. We can't. Back in the day, under Steen, for example, the McGrains and Dalglishs would get 3 or 4 games and then they'd be rested again. But the demand from our support especially seems to be that we have a class player. 2 great players for every position, which means that there's no path for them. And that's what they would be looking at as kids. What are my chances of getting into this team? What are my chances of getting into that team? And with Celtic, the way's pretty much blocked. As soon as we lose a player, we're trying to sign somebody at a high level.
Excuse me, so why are we going out and buying? The question is, why are we going out and buying other people's youngsters rather than creating our own youngsters that are good enough? That's what I'm saying. So do we need to change the approach? And again, Monty, you mentioned the other day, do we have a sports science department? Do we have is the infrastructure behind the scenes modern enough and good enough? Why can, like a Brighton have got a great youth academy, so to speak, and they go out and buy loads of great youngsters and then send them out on loan? These sort of, is our approach needing refined a little bit? Or again, we just say Steve McManus and Darren O'Day, there's a couple of ex-players, away you go lads, he's doing a great job. Nothing against him personally, but do we need to maybe look a wee bit wider, a wee bit, again, maybe it's a case of go to Australia, Monty, and say, how are these guys doing it? Or go to a city group, how are you guys doing it? Because it doesn't appear to be working at the moment.
But it all takes time. I mean, Man City have just sold Cole Palmer to Chelsea for 45, 50 million. Fucking kids only play a couple of games top team football. But there's an environment, if you can blinker out the madness of England, which for centuries might have been the best thing for the world to do, but we didn't. If you can just ignore England, right, and look at it in a genuine football context, and then apply that to normal, let's call them markets, normal countries, then the conveyor belt of youth talent, the ability to break into the first team, the requirement for that to be sustainable and be better as a football club requires infrastructure and requires culture. You could build a really, really successful team in Scotland by going out and getting, I wouldn't say the worst players, but the dirtiest players in Scotland. Souness did it. Remember that guy Terry Hurlock and all that? Fucking, he brought him in, thugs. You can actually build a really effective football team on a culture of fuck you, we're the nastiest shower bastards who've ever played the game. Me did it in GAA in the 80s and 90s. So this takes time. Our problem is the 2-year cycle, the 3-year cycle. The manager, 2-year, 3-year cycle.
Yeah.
Till you've a long, like how long has Guardiola been at City now? 6 years? 7 years? More?
I was listening on the same thing. I was listening to the Champions League draw on TalkSport. Heaven forbid me, forgive me, should I say? But they had a fella on that does a lot of European football, and he was talking about the Benfica model. And Benfica seem to sell quite a few of their star players, but they've always got somebody ready to take a place, and they're even in the position where they can loan out what you would call class players to the likes of Celtic, with Jota and possibly even Bernardo. So they're doing something right, and would it not be an idea to go and see what they're doing?
Yeah.
And where we can pick wee things up from them. We don't need to go all the way to Australia.
But can I just bring up...
Look at PSV last night. PSV had loads of homegrown. I'm not saying it's a perfect model, but I just think there's a few questions that could be asked to improve the Celtic model.
But there's a cultural... sorry, if I can just round out a cultural point without holding your ears. The cultural point applies as much to the national culture as it does to the club. And I'm not saying that people in Holland and Portugal are, I'm not generalizing by saying they're all fucking healthier or they all eat better and all that. There's a cultural notion around football in Portugal, which is a place dear to my heart. Football for them, as much as it is for us, is still it's the religion. But your attachment to the club is more akin, I would suggest, it's more akin to like a GAA thing. It's with you, and you're with, like Jota played through all of the Benfica underage groups, but that net is fucking huge. It's not just one team of 25 elite 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, and some drop off. That's a fucking huge network that revolves around Football Club Benfica. And it does the same with Sporting Club Lisbon. And they have an ecosystem that underpins them. We don't. No club in Scotland does. Arguably no club in England does. So then money dictates where the talent goes. Money also then dictates the culture. Guaranteeing for us, wonderful success. We sold them for the first really, really big bid. And then you're into the culture of the business model and everything else. So I don't think we could do the Benfica thing because the natural pool of talent at the underage levels doesn't exist for Celtic. It just doesn't. If it did, though, if you could extend that network and that notion of GAA that I mentioned, where it's done on a, as we've talked about, it's done on a county level all the way down to your parish. So you play for your club, and it happens at underage levels all the way up. You play for your club, which is in your parish, which is inside your town. You have your rivalries, and then you move up to county level, and your allegiance is all the way up to county level. No matter, like Dublin, for example, 1.5 million, 2 million people, all allegiance to Dublin. That's why they're so dominant at the minute. If Celtic could do that, then I think the Benfica model would work. Otherwise, I'm just not sure how you could.
Interesting. We'll see if it never do. It'll be interesting to see if and when a Celtic youth player gets a chance again to actually break through. Because we've had a few close run things in the last few years that it's never came to fruition. So fingers crossed it does. Right, I'm just going to ask you before we go, score predictions for Sunday. Hector, on you go.
Oh, God.
Heart and head. There you go, heart and head. I'll allow you to. Heart and head.
Well, the Heart's saying 2-0 Celtic.
Head.
I don't want to say it. My head's thinking.
Okay, you can take the fifth if you like.
2-1 to them. I hate to say it.
2-1 to the Huns. Right, okay. Ralph, what do you think for Sunday? Heart and head.
One each would be the head, and the heart would be 2-1. I can't see them not scoring. They're going to get a penalty or at least a free kick or something in a dangerous position.
Well, again,
it's a given. There's no way they'll not score.
It's Hector pointed out last night. On you go.
It depends on how much they'll get away with and how much a crowd turns on the referees if they don't give what they're expecting, how much a crowd turns on the players. I don't think it being on the TV where the worldwide audience will calm any of the more bizarre decisions. I think get out of there while the player's not injured, and a point would be an absolute bonus.
Nice thing, mate. As Hector did point out last night, sadly Barisic is not playing on Sunday at the moment, so that nullifies at least one of their crossing the ball, and Dessers getting up with his elbows trying to muscle in. So that'll be interesting. What about you, Monty? What do you think for Sunday?
My heart and head are both calibrated on like a 1 each or a 2 each.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think. I noted Bale using the excuse that the PSV game came too early for quote unquote this team, which is a guy who's just not a manager to say that, and he also used in the post-match interview, this one's on me, the buck stops with me, the old Steven Gerrard thing. You can be guaranteed that these fuckers would have viewed Sunday's game if not every bit as more important than the game that they played last. They have an absolute desire to overcome us, and Beale is building that. All the diving, the dark art, Cantwell going to ground at the slightest touch, Raskin niggling and being a nasty little fucker. They're building it in his image where anything goes, any advantage, and we have to overcome that. I think we're far more professional, measured at the minute. We're not as gung-ho as under Postecoglou, but I just can't. It's too early for us. I hate using the fucking excuse. It's too early for us. But that suits the fixtures and it suits the calendar. Take a draw, yeah, grand. But it really, re-emphasising it, this feels like another, and maybe it's the biggest insult I can give them. This to me just feels like another SPL game. Could be Hearts, it could be in Kilmarnock. It's irrelevant to me in the bigger picture now, which I think for us as a club, if we're there, maybe I'm just a fucking outlier and I don't really care for the rivalry anymore. But I think if we can detach ourselves from them in that regard, it's just another 3 points. Oh my God.
Yeah, so you're more concerned.
1 each.
But with your flamboyant lifestyle now, you're more concerned with Chelsea trying to buy Sporting Lisbon as a feeder club. That's more than your radar.
I'm just wondering where we're going to get the flowing locks that we lost when Jota went from a marketability point of view.
Bernardo would be nice. If Bernardo can fulfil that would be nice. Again, I think the big question is who starts at centre half. If Phillips can start and he can, Hector, you mentioned the fact that this coming in for Liverpool, he played a blinder in the Champions League, even though it turned out he had, a broken eye socket or a cheekbone through the game, but he still, he could stand up, 6'3", could stand up, go to the muscle, be able to actually command, like a Carter Vickers style, he can command that centre half area, and he can put up with our Dessers. And then the question is, second ball, can we clear those? Because that's what they'll be playing for. If he starts, I think we've got a good chance of getting the draw 1 each, and we'll all be happy, to be brutally honest. But if he doesn't start, then I think you're looking at a good 3-1. I think we'll get clubbed 3-1. Because I think Scales and Lager will just be too much for them. And I think, to be brutally honest, nothing against them personally, but I just think it'll be too much. And again, you'll get the officials, you'll get the crowd, atmosphere, pressure. It'll just be too much. So hopefully I'm wrong. Well, but gladly, I'd take it. I think Brendan would be happy with a one each in the stay top of the league, or at least above Rangers in the league, because the other teams who are on 7 points may go top of the league for the weekend. That's fine. So there we go. So that's us, folks. Thanks for bearing with us through those various ups and downs there. But we are now in the Champions League, Group E, Feyenoord, Atletico Madrid, and Lazio, our old friends Lazio. We'll find out on Saturday when the fixtures are. Hopefully we'll find out, I suppose, by Monday how much the free match ticket package is. I don't know if Grandad Bandido can now afford the free match package after having to buy all those miniature Celtic strips. So we'll wait and see what happens there. Fingers crossed. So that's us. So we can look forward to the Champions League football starting very soon, and hopefully we'll come through Sunday as unscathed as possible. All it is left for me to say thanks very much to the guys tonight. Thank you, Ralph, for turning up. Hopefully you can attend a lot more. All we can see, Ralph, is the light of your cigarette at the moment, or two. Can't even see your face. It's that dark in Stoke now.
It's like fucking Terminator there. The two red dots.
That's exactly. It's just about one red eye. Very strange.
I'm in Telford. I'm not in Stoke. I'm in Telford, Shropshire. But it was good to have a wee chat again, and very interesting and thought-provoking. And we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
And again, everyone, if you can, again, apologies, Ralph. Again, if you can, please follow Ralph's eTims diary at www.etims.net. It's been great reading recently. And again, thank you to Monty C. Burns. Thank you, Monty.
Thanks, Desi. Thanks, lads. Really enjoyed that.
And a final thank you and a final congratulations to Grandpa CSC, Hector Bandido. Thank you, Hector.
Celtic Daz or so last year. Saw about the Celtic Grandad.
Exactly. Celtic Daz, who needs them? Celtic Grandad's the way forward. So thanks again, folks, for listening. My name's Desmond. Good night.